Okay. All right, so we're going to spend the next couple of days going over evaluating department performance, which means evaluating purchasing department performance. Develop criteria for evaluating the overall supply management department performance. Organizational expectations of supply management, top management will set the tone for the nature of the supply management in the organization, what they want purchasing to do for them. It's reflected in who supply management reports to and the level of the highest ranking supply management personnel. So CEO also sets expectation of supply management through the selection of company goals. Congruence with organizational objectives. So procurement's goals and objectives need to be consistent with the company's mission and strategy. So if you're Nordstrom, don't be going and getting a bunch of Walmart suppliers. And the metrics by which procurement is measured must also be consistent. And procurement should be measured on results of creating or maintaining a competitive advantage for the company. Easier said than done. Congruence with supplier and customer objectives. So procurement's objectives must be directed at improving its internal customers' ability to meet their objectives. It's a little more straightforward in a manufacturing organization like ours. Service organization, it gets a little more confusing. Scorecards should contain both quantitative and qualitative metrics that compare goals and objectives, and can be used to show how procurement meets its customer objectives. So categories, this is one recommendation for a scorecard. Internal scorecard for the purchasing department. Customer would be one category. These kinds of things. Financial, PPV would be in there too, usually. Operations, days of supply, inventory measures, and people.
Sorry, I missed, I'm late. And you're not sharing your screen? We're just doing questions?
Oh, am I not sharing my screen?
I see it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm on my phone because my computer crashed.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's we're doing the first part of C3 today. So.
Okay, I'll join again from my.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
All right. So anyway, there's some guys by the name of 12manage.com that put together this scorecard, which is another way of doing it. So you have scorecards for your suppliers, but this is a scorecard for the purchasing department. Financial objectives, measures, targets, initiatives, business processes, satisfy shareholders, learning and growing, achieving your vision, and then the customer. And then the vision and strategy kind of ties it all together. But that's one way of doing it. Reasons for departmental performance appraisals. So determine if the department's effectiveness in meeting company needs. So does procurement add value? Do they have cost reductions, value analysis, minimization of liabilities? And you want to also look at department's management. Factors procurement may want to measure internally include capabilities of personnel, which I don't know how you'd measure that, but okay. Soundness of the department structure, which is another kind of weird thing to measure. Scope of each job, and department plans, policies, and procedures. Measuring improvement and deterioration. So you want to measure the trend in the department. Without measures, there's no indication of whether changes in processes are improving performance. Measurement can also provide early warning signals of deterioration. So determining resources needed for improvements, given past performance, procurement management can develop estimates for future resource requirements. What's it going to cost to do training, technology upgrades, staff additions, etc. And determine if the value is added by the department. Today, most areas in the company are subject to analysis to reduce or eliminate activities that no longer add value. So what is purchasing adding, how is purchasing adding value to the company? Now this is your pretty standard performance measurement steps. Identify the organizational mission and vision and goals. Determine what you're going to measure to meet your goals. And then establish the measurements in support of the mission. Measure and evaluate performance, identify areas for improvement, create an action plan, implement the improvements. Nothing earth-shattering there. Performance measurement process. A company's leadership team must be able to evaluate the overall performance of its departments, individuals, and suppliers. So key performance indicators, KPIs, which also can be used as key process indicators, but we're going to call them performance indicators here, determined by the overall business objectives of the organization. So these measures should reinforce the attainment of the objectives and measurements considered critical to the performance of a business or process. So the procurement department or purchasing department would have 3 or 4 KPIs that they would measure on an ongoing basis. Department performance metrics relevant to supply management include things like efficiency, how do we perform with allocated funds, effectiveness, inventory turnover, total cost of supply management, labor versus total organizational revenue. Kind of an interesting way of looking at it. Supplier performance, quality, delivery, flexibility, price, etc. And number of suppliers. What percentage are responsible for 80% of the spend? For us, it's I can't remember how many suppliers we have in SPM, but they're responsible for about 85% of the spend in North America. I think it's like 75 or something. Supplier diversity. We don't really track that here, but we probably will sometime in the future. Which suppliers are run by diverse populations. Spend under management. So this really goes to their indirect folks downstairs. How much do they have control of? Because obviously we have control of 100% of the OE procurement part spend. Involvement in new product development. How well the suppliers help advance the new product initiatives, and internal and external client satisfaction surveys. These guys talk about surveys a lot, but I've never seen a company that actually procurement goes out and surveys their customers for how good a job they're doing, or their suppliers for that matter. Metrics relevant to the organization, financials, cost savings, which can be broken down into both cost avoidance upfront and cost reductions after the fact. Average payment terms. For us, this is not that important, but for smaller businesses, it's usually much more important. Critical for good criteria for good performance measures. They're support decision-making, reflect internal customer needs, cost-effective, reflect external customer needs, understandable, apply broadly, precise in interpreting results. You're applying it broadly, but you're precise in interpreting results. Uniform. That all leads to good performance measures. Measurement creation. Begin with a view of meeting or exceeding the department's key strategies. What are the key strategies for the purchasing department? Procurement objectives must be aligned and work in conjunction with those of the rest of the company. And then you got to have both qualitative and quantitative measures. So you want more quantitative than qualitative, but you need a few of both. Results, signal versus noise, and key stakeholders. So objectives need to be divided into groups and quantify existing data. Then at some point in the future, compare it to historical data. And then you can present in a quarterly business review or a QBR, which is, I guess, purchasing reporting to those above them on how they're doing. And then the balance scorecard, which is probably be done quarterly too, monitoring those 3 or 4 KPIs for the procurement department. And you can also have them externally for the supplier, which is what our SPM program is all about. Management controls. Now, these guys make a big deal about these, so you'll see questions on them. Mechanism to monitor company activities and see if they conform to plan. So management control is the ability to influence events and keep them on the desired course. There's 3 types of management controls. You have before the fact controls. You have during the fact controls and after the fact controls. So we'll go through them here a little bit. So before the fact controls are the most prevalent. There are things like budgets and plans, market share, customer requirements, such as that. Risk or contingency planning is also a before the fact control. Disaster planning is part of that. Business continuity planning is a before the fact control, which these guys kind of muddy it up here. There's a difference between business continuity and disaster contingency planning, but they both involve looking at risks. Forecasts, those are before the fact plans. Policies and procedures are also before the fact. And then we move to during the fact controls, quality, timing, key performance indicators, etc. So activity completion dates is a during the fact control, quality control, number of defects is a during the fact control, statistical quality control, same kind of thing, number of defects, scheduling, deciding in advance when work will be performed and where it will be performed, what kind of resources will be used. See, I would disagree with them. I would say that is a before the fact control. But they're probably making a difference between the actual shop floor schedule and the master production schedule. So master production schedule would be a before the fact, and the shop floor schedule would be during the fact. And then after the fact controls, reviews design to compare actual performance with planned performance. So an audit is the classic after the fact control, or a customer survey after the fact. And then you've got active versus passive controls. So all 3 of them, before, during, and after the fact controls, can be either active or passive. So an active control focuses on policies and guidelines that require conscious action or a decision. Updating contracts with supplier bid would be an example of a active after the fact control. And passive controls are always switched on and reporting performance in the background. So recording on-time delivery would be passive control. And passive controls can only be activated under certain conditions when there is a problem. Example would be inventory reaches 0. So the active controls require you to do something. The passive controls may or may not. And then here's your types of controls chart. Before the fact, budgets, plans, business continuity plans, forecasts, policies. These are all before the fact controls. During the fact controls, structured processes, adherence to policy and procedure. That's interesting. So the policies are before the fact, but adherence to them is during the fact controls. Specifications and industry standards. And then after the fact report controls are things like reports and audits and reviews. Reports are another source of information that's after the fact. Use it to compare actual to plan. And then procedure reviews, you're looking at the procedures, determine whether people are following them or not. Do you need to change them? That's an after the fact control also. All right. A supply manager wants to ensure that supply management activity and contribution is goal-oriented and quantitatively measurable. Okay, which of the following courses of action should the supply manager take first? He wants to ensure that supply management activity and contributions are goal-oriented and quantitatively measurable. So the first thing he's going to do, the procedures manual, conduct an internal audit, implement statistical quality control, and develop key performance indicators. So you can rule out two of them pretty quickly. You're not going to conduct an internal audit first.
C.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it would have to be A or D. Unless you like, yeah, I don't think you'd do implement statistical quality control. Let's see what these guys say. I would probably go with, I don't know, probably get, yeah, D.
I'd say D too.
Yeah. D it is. What didn't they like about A? Incorrect, because procedures manual is before the fact control, and while it may indirectly influence interim results, it's not directly applicable. That didn't make a lot of sense, but okay. All right, so that is the only question we got for today. So there's 8 questions out there on the web. You can pull them down and we can go over them in about 8 minutes or about 3:55. Or if you get down early, raise your hand. Yeah, so you only want to do the first 2 pages, first 8 questions. All right. It's pretty quick. Number 1 is Bravo. Capital efficiency is a quantitative measure. 2 is Alpha. The least likely of the 4 choices, since investment in a function is an action taken when the function is viewed as a strategic rather than tactical. So this is kind of an inside-out type of question. 3 is Charlie. Total dollar spend is least likely to be included in a performance-based measurement. It is strictly an activity measure that tracks expenditures. There's no direct link between spend and performance. Okay, 4. Charlie, individuals' goals and objectives are based on the person department's goals. And the KPIs of the department should be considered when writing individual staff members' goals. 5 is also Charlie. A balanced scorecard. And I already see balanced scorecard in the answers. Balanced scorecard is always the answer.
Okay.
6 is Alpha. Business continuity is before the fact. 7 is Charlie, because during the fact, management control is applied when the target task is being performed. In the case of production schedule, one could say the production schedule in and of itself is a before the fact management control. That's what I would say. However, maintaining a production schedule in accordance with that schedule must take place as goods are produced, which is during the fact. That's kind of splitting hairs, boys, but okay. 8 is Charlie, because the study of historical performance through performance audits is a study of results, and is, as such, is an after-the-fact management control. Didn't you like about Alpha? Incorrect, because policies and procedure managers are both before the fact. Okay. All right. That's what I got for you. We'll finish this up tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
All right, see you guys.